Hi everyone, with the last video, I'm sure you now know who are the authors of the Hindu root scriptures, the Vedas were. They are none other than the descendants of Abraham through his other sons, the sons of his concubines. We have seen that the Brahmins get their name literally from Abraham. And I have not mentioned this in the last video, but let me ask you this. Who is the goddess of knowledge, education, learning, arts, speech, poetry, music, purification, language, and culture in the Hindu religion? It is none other than Brahma's wife, that is Saraswati, who is none other than Sarah from the Bible. So the Aryans, who later became Hindus because they settled around the river Indus, attributed all their knowledge to their mother, Sarah, and they literally worship her. This is not an alien practice in Hindu culture. Even to this day, Hindus worship superhumans or people who influence them like their parents, teachers, and well-wishers. In this video, I would like to show more ancient biblical practices which the Hindus use even to this day. So stay tuned. We are in fact going to uncover a hidden mystery that connects an ancient biblical event with the Hindu tradition of using the Kumkum, that is the vermilion, and turmeric. We actually see Kumkum everywhere in Hindu culture, like on their foreheads, their idols, temples, weddings, and even in all rituals. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? What is the significance of the red vermilion and turmeric? Why is the vermilion or kumkum almost always mixed with turmeric? And why does this combination hold so much power in Hindu tradition? Have you ever asked these questions? There's a deeper meaning here, and it will blow your minds, guys. The Hindus used to know and believe that the kumkum represents blood, which represents life itself. In Leviticus chapter 17 and verse 11, God says, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it for you on the altar to make atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that makes atonement by the life." And the Hindus also used to know that turmeric's main function is to purify blood. I'm deliberately saying that the Hindus used to know and believe these things because now no one knows, as they have all been removed so far from their root scriptures, the Vedas. Anyway, coming back to the kumkum and turmeric, they are often mixed together before application in all Hindu practices today. When combined, they don't just represent blood, but pure and sacred blood instead, because turmeric purifies blood. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Thousands of years ago, during the time of Moses, the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. The 10th plague was about to strike. This 10th plague was supposed to cause the death of every firstborn son in Egypt. But God gave the Israelites a way to escape. He told them, "Take the blood of a lamb and mark it on your doorposts. When the angel of death sees the blood, it will pass over your home and spare you." This is according to Exodus chapter 12. This was the very first Passover, that is a night where blood on the doorposts saved the lives of the firstborn sons of the families who applied it. Why is this account important in this context, right? Here's that connection. What if the ancient Hindus in some form preserved this practice but modified it? What if instead of animal blood, they started using kumkum to represent it? And because turmeric purifies blood, they added it to make it pure blood. Is this a coincidence again? I don't believe in coincidences. In Hindu culture today, the women apply the vermilion on their foreheads only if their husbands are alive. The widows shouldn't put the vermilions on their foreheads. So there lies the proof, right? The married Hindu women would want the death angel to pass over their husbands by applying the vermilion, which is made with kumkum and turmeric. Did you get it? Now, if we go further back in Hinduism, early Vedic culture had animal sacrifices just like in the biblical times. Even to this day, in some remote cultures of Hinduism, The animal sacrifices are still being done, guys. But at some point, most Hindus became strictly non-violent toward animals. Why? One of the biggest influences was Mahavir Jain or Mahavira or Vardhamana, who lived during the 6th century BC. He was the one who spread the idea of ahimsa, which is non-violence. Over time, this teaching changed even the ancient rituals of the sacred Vedas, guys. As a result, the sacrificial meaning of blood was lost, but the symbolism remained. How evil was that, right? I'm calling it evil because humans had the audacity to change what God, the Creator, ordained for good. They didn't want to deal with the guilt of killing an innocent animal. But that guilt was necessary for them to understand the depth of their sin. They rather wanted to die in their sins than deal with the guilt of killing an innocent animal. This was against what God intended for all humanity. So in the process, what happened? They missed the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ, who in fact came to die for their sins forever. So instead of real blood, the Hindus started using Kumkum and mix it with turmeric to symbolize the purest offering. As I said, this is a direct disobedience of their root scriptures, the Vedas, and hence a direct disobedience to God, their own Creator. Anyway, the Hindus continued to live in this sin, marking their foreheads, idols, and homes, just like the ancient Israelites marked their doorposts, but with fake blood. So it's not just this Kumkum and turmeric tradition. Believe it or not, there are many other current Hindu traditions that mimic the Old Testament practices. Some of them are: number one, the priestly caste system and the Levites. In Hinduism, only the Brahmins, like the Levites, were given the duty of offering sacrifices, teaching scriptures, and leading prayers. Number two, the Holy of Holies and the Hindu inner sanctum called the Garbhagudi. In Jewish temples, there was a sacred inner chamber called the Holy of Holies. It was the most sacred place where only the high priest could enter once a year. The Hindu temples also have an inner sanctum called the Garbhagruha or Garbhagudi. This is the holiest part of the temple where only priests are allowed to enter. Number three, the red heifer and Hindu cow worship. The Bible talks about a special cow sacrifice called the red heifer used for purification rituals. This was mentioned in Numbers chapter 19 verses 1 through 10. Hinduism also reveres the cow, seeing it as holy and spiritually pure. But over time, the meaning changed. Again, the Hindus had to use their own intellect over what the scriptures command them to do. So what was once used in purification sacrifices is now worshipped as a living sacred being, that is the cow worship. And last but not the least, there are so many similarities in the way the Hindu temples are built, just like the Old Testament tabernacles. Especially the outer court. In Hinduism, it's called the mandapa. Then the holy place, and in Hinduism, it's the inner hall. And the Holy of the Holies, which is similar to the Garbhagudi, as I was mentioning earlier. Even the priestly robes and the Hindu priest garments are so very similar. In Hindu temples, the kalasha, a golden pot-like structure, is placed on top of the temple, symbolizing divine presence and blessings. This is similar to the Ark of the Covenant covered in gold with two golden cherubim on top. Isn't it interesting? In Hinduism, the shankha, the conch shell, is blown in temples before rituals. And in the Old Testament, the shofar, that is the ram's horn, was blown in the temple to announce holy days and victories. And many, many more, guys. I can go on and on. Now, how did so many Hindu traditions end up so similar to the Old Testament practices? Isn't the evidence clear enough? As I mentioned, Abraham's other sons who moved eastward preserved all these practices, but over time forgot their true meaning and their true origin. So many elements of Hinduism are actually echoes of the ancient biblical truths, guys. And most importantly, all these practices were pointing to something greater, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, even in the Hindu root scriptures, the Vedas. Think about it, friends. Don't make your already hardened hearts even harder. Come to Christ today, my friends. Salvation is now. I hope that you have learned something new today. We will talk more in the coming videos. God bless you all, and I will see you in the next one.